Kia ora, talofa lava, and welcome to another episode of the Counter Ruck, a podcast where we discuss all things rugby. I'm the host of the Counter Ruck, Stacey, and this is our first episode of 2021. So we thought we'd start off by bringing in a knowledgeable man on rugby circles, a very knowledgeable man in the rugby community. Roger, mate, thanks for jumping on for our first episode of 2021, mate.
Talofa lava, happy new year to all our listeners, far and near and wide, heads, toes.
Yep, for sure. It's good to be back, and we've also got Cameron who's helping out with the fact checking, because I know with Roger's facts we do need some of those things to be checked and double checked.
Coming in from the left field.
Glad to be here doing that job.
Yep. All right, boys. Before we start, mate, Rog, it's been about 2 months since we finished up last year. How have you been, mate? What have you been up to?
Nothing much, just trying to enjoy the summer, get in a bit of a crisp tan and
nice.
Enjoy some family time as well.
Yep. Me the same, just doing the same stuff. So thanks for asking how I was doing as well, Rog.
Hey, Stace, it looks like you're looking a bit stressed here with that beard that you're sporting there, mate.
Yeah, no, it's time for it to go. Time for a change. I thought I'd try and see if I could pull it off, but I look a bit stressed and a bit homeless. So.
Yeah, I don't know how you're getting those surgical masks or the N95. I mean, with COVID, mate, you got to have you sealed that off. So that beard, I'm not sure if you're setting a good example there of preventing COVID from spreading, mate.
Yeah, good point. Just on that, we've just come out of level 3, so I know that the podcasting has been a bit difficult, but now we're on level 2, we're able to power through. So we're going to do a preview today of Super Rugby Aotearoa. But I guess before we start, Rog, mate, I'll ask you, are you planning on lacing up the boots for 2021? Or
Well, that's a question that's come out of left field. We're talking about Super Aotearoa.
Was the writing on the wall, mate? Should have retired 2 years ago, or are you still going to keep going?
The writing's always been on the wall, but like the tui ad, it never happens. So I'm just going to go down to training and see what happens. But yeah, still enjoy going down training with the club, good young lads coming through, but we'll see how it all eventuates, and COVID as well has been a massive factor last year in terms of grassroots club rugby, so affected a whole lot of the grassroots community right across the nation. So he's hoping that everyone can get back and play some footy as well.
Yep. I know we spoke about this last year, and one of our goals for 2021 was not to just cover Super Rugby, but to look at women's rugby and some of the grassroots. So it'd be good to have someone on the Counter Ruck who's still involved with the game in some capacity. So, Rog, mate, hope you do lace up the boots, brother.
We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, all right. So just some things that we've got coming up for 2021. We did 20 episodes last year, 2020. But coming up, we're trying to come back bigger and better. So we'll be doing our weekly preview shows, which we've been doing, and review shows, which we've been doing last year. Also coming up throughout the year, we've got the 30-year anniversary of the Manu Samoa, the 91 Manu Samoa, that's probably our greatest ever achievement, I think, for the Manu Samoa, what they did at that 91 World Cup. So we'll look at that, the 30-year anniversary, we'll look at that and what went wrong after that. I thought that was going to be the turning of a corner, but we'll touch on that a bit later on throughout the year and just doing some previews. So we've also got a new thing, which I'm going to introduce probably a bit later on in the show. We've got a WesWes medal, which is what we're going to call it, for the Player of the Year. So just some things to look forward to for 2021. I'll also say that our website, for anyone who's not sure, is up and going. So check that out, WesWesNet, www.weswesnet.com. And also, we've got a Facebook page, Counter Ruck Facebook page, and Twitter. So give us a follow and give us a like on there. But Super Rugby Aotearoa, I thought we'd start by doing some previews. And I'll start at the top of the North Island and work our way down, similar to what we did last year. Which brings us to your old team you used to support before you jumped the fence, Rog. The Blues.
Whoa, silly. Why you got to bring it in like that, segue, Vala, silly?
Mate, that's still my team. I've still got to say that's still my team, mate. But Roger, I'll just ask you quickly, mate. Do you have any thoughts on how you think the Blues are going to go, or just any standout players to keep an eye out for? Just something on the Blues as we do a bit of a preview of the teams.
It was sort of sad to see Nepololala come north from the mighty Waikato region, but I mean, he's obviously there to try and prove a point that he's still a mainstay for the All Blacks. But he's going to, be doing it tough with the experience of Ofa Tungawhasi there, as well as Kao Tū Kōtahi, who had a little bit of a reinvention of himself to be able to be in the All Blacks again last year. So well done to him and those that have helped them come back into good form, especially after his maiden year. But you got a good team all around there. You got Rico, who's now solidifying his place in the midfield, but also obviously can cover on the flanks in the wing. Zan Sullivan, good pickup from the Blues, and also Nepia Oneria for Mai. But Caleb Clark, good to see him probably starting the season afresh. Not too sure what's going to be happening with the Sevens and the Olympics later on this year, but and whether Caleb Clark he's now pretty much a mainstay in the All Blacks as of last year, but bigger and better things from a lot of those players. Good to see local Waitemata man Adrian Choate in there with a second half against the Blues in the game of 3 halves. It's just happened this weekend. So and Perofeta to make a comeback, slotting in there at fullback against the Crusaders, and then able to obviously slot into number 10 as well. But I think, before his injury, last year, he was really making waves for himself as a fullback. But obviously, there's been big raps on him as a young lad coming through the age grade at first 5 as well. So, but tough battle there at halfback. Who's going to be settling at halfback with Jonathan Ruru there and Sam Knock. Sam Knock had I believe a good season last year, also with the Taniwha as well as the Blues, and trying to put his hand up to be the first pick. But interesting to see what happens with your flankers there, because you've got a wealth of loose forwards. Adrian Choate again trying to prove his worth. Tom Robertson coming back in. Good to see him back after a spell on the sideline with injury. Akira Ioane, I believe, has got a point to prove as well. Having had a good stint with the All Blacks at the end of the year last year, and see whether he can just continue to show that maturity at Super Rugby as well, and continue to make headways there and have his hand up to be a mainstay in that All Black squad.
Yeah, nice thoughts. I agree with all of that, actually. I did introduce you as a knowledgeable guy in rugby circles. I'm not sure if Leon McDonald listens to our podcast and listens to your tips, because we did a podcast before the Super Rugby teams were named, and you identified 3 guys that you thought should get Super Rugby contracts. You said Adrian Choate, Nedia Formai, and Zan Sullivan. And Leon McDonald must have been listening, because he took all 3 of your guys. So
that's it. So I'll be
I'll give you some credit there, mate.
I mean,
all 3 of them.
I think Adrian Choate at the beginning of the year didn't have a contract with the Blues. He was in the wider squad. I'm not too sure what's happening now. We're getting closer, a week out now. But seeing him in there for this game of 3 halves, it's this late in the pre-season and close to the season kicking off next week, is good signs for Choate. Not too sure whether he would have gone to another franchise if he wasn't going to be in with a chance with the Blues. But good to see him trying to fight his way into that a playing squad as well. So good on him. It just means Waitemata won't see him if he's.
Well, then you might have to step up and pull the boots on again.
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm still trying to play centre and fullback these days.
Nate, you touched on the props as well. So Hodgman, he was with the All Blacks last year. Tui Nukuafe, Ofa Tongawhasi, and then they've added Niporo Lala. So that's 4 All Black props that they've got going there. So that's another area of strength, along with the loose forwards, which you touched on. But they've lost Bodie. How could I forget? They've lost Bowden Barrett. So that's a big loss. I don't know if he was the guy that turned it around for the Blues, but I think that he is so good. And Perofeta, like you mentioned, before his injury, he looked good. So he's going to have to step up. I think that if he can step up, then that can help to fill that void as well. So the Blues, mate, I'm obviously biased, but I think that they've got a really, really good chance of taking up the competition, mate. How do you see
I don't expect you to say anything different. This is what you've said every year
Yes.
since 2000 and since the last championship. But again, touching on the first 5 options here, Aotearoa Black had a stellar start to last year after being in Beauden Barrett's shadow down at the Hurricanes. Obviously injuries hampered his tenure with the Blues at the beginning, but he came into his own last year and was able to just really call the shots and guide a steady ship there before even Beauden Barrett came into the Blues equation. So, I mean, you act so surprised that Beauden Barrett is a massive loss. You guys knew full well that he was not going to be here this year. He's obviously taken up contract in Japan. Again, massive money to try and get him into the Blues colours, and it was a good effort for them to be able to do that. But we won't be seeing him until the latter stages of the Super Aotearoa next year, or Super Rugby, or whatever version it is, before the next World Cup.
Yep. So, for me, I'm just expecting big things from the Blues, and I predict that they will probably take it out. We'll mention as well that James Parsons, he's retired, another favourite of the Counter Ruck podcast. And so Kurt Eklund, he was pretty good last year, so I will say that I expect him to step up. And another guest that we've had on our podcast before, Ray Newell, he's back from his long-term injury, and he'll be contesting for that hooker spot. So big shout-out for him. I hope he does well. He's did good work for our podcast before, so shout-out to him. If you ever got anything more you want to say on the beautiful Blues, we'll move down towards your neck of the woods, Rog, and we'll have a quick preview of the Chiefs.
The mighty Chiefs.
Mate, this is your team, so I'll let you have the first say. I will say, we've just watched the game of 3 halves, and they looked rudderless. They looked lost. They lost both halves, and that was quite convincing.
Rudderless. You're making.
I don't know what
you're trying to compare them to American Magic that had no show out in the waters.
I don't. was down in Cambridge. Maybe they were watching some of these bloody racing and stuff. But the Chiefs, mate. What are you making of the Chiefs? And who should we be looking out for? Is there anyone that really stands out? They've got a really young side.
Well, you got some of the experienced guys like Brad Weber and Damien McKenzie to sort of steady the ship a bit, with a lot of the young fellas coming through. Anton Leonard-Brown as well in the centres. It'll be interesting to see how they go with that leadership group there. But then there's a lot of some newer players right across the board there. But you got Te Toiroa Tahuri Orangi still in there as well, who some were saying was, lucky to be in that All Black mix.
I'm saying that.
But he's there again to show his wares. Nathan Harris still, trucking along there, and is somewhat of a more of an experienced campaigner for the Blues front row, as well as as a hooker. Luke Jacobson, obviously a lot of time in the ITM last year, trying to make a comeback after an injury the year before. But looking at Brad Weber, it'll be interesting to see how he steps up, trying to claim a spot in that All Black, if there's any All Black tests at the end of next year. But he's always going to be an exciting sort of prospect as well. But Chase Tiatia, he was with the Canes last year, wasn't he?
Yeah.
And from what I remember, he only had one game. So it's interesting. He's come north to try and get some more game time, but he's an exciting player as well. And he was part of that game that he did play in. He did really well. He scored a try or two. So, but I'm not too sure. Was there a player there that's come north from the southern parts of the South Island? One Test All Black. I'm not too sure if his name escapes me at the moment. So he could be another one that's in.
Yeah, we've got our fact checker looking into that. But one thing I will say, like you talked about Triple T, I genuinely think he is a player under pressure because we talked about Xavier Rowe last year, and I watched that first half when they played the Crusaders. He was the best player in the Chiefs, I thought. He was the standout player. And I think that it might be a bit young. He might still have a bit more development to go. But I wouldn't be surprised if by the end of the year, he's the number one halfback there. And I think Triple T will move down to third. So he's going to have to step up and do some amazing things. Well, another thing I'll ask you about Rogers, they had Damian McKenzie. He played first 5. So I know they've had some issues. They've lost Aaron Cruden. Just curious how you see that part of who you think might be the 10. They've picked up Bryn Gatland as well, who was with the Highlanders last year. But, Cruden, he's a world-class player, and it's a big loss. Yeah. So
I think Bryn Gatland, he did some good things for the Highlanders. Obviously, the drop kick that sealed it against his own father coaching at the Chiefs. But I think he's been a bit of a journeyman too. As a young person too. He's come from the Blues. He was the Highlanders, and now he's at the Chiefs. So it'll be interesting to see how they utilise him and when do they bring him in. Do they throw Damian McKenzie into the fullback role in order to have someone of his ilk in that first 5, or and Chase Tia as well. He's got a bit of a skill set where he can play closer into the forwards as well. So it'll be interesting to see where they utilise all these guys. But Caleb Trask, obviously another guy that played really well for the New Zealand Māori All Blacks last year as a fullback. He has been utilised as a first 5 as well throughout last year's season. But young man, I think he's trying to find his place as well and where he is best utilised. And I guess working in with the players that's already been mentioned, I guess he's just got to fit in. And I think fullback is probably his better place. He's got a bit more time, and he just seems a bit more comfortable at the back there.
Yeah, the Chiefs, we talked about Xavier Rowe. This guy, Rayhan, as well. I saw him. He's another young guy. Massive potential. So I think they've got some good young talent coming through. And good to see Nathan Harris back, who you talked about before. So he's been an All Black hooker. He's had horrible run of injuries. So if he can get a bit of luck, I think he could be... He's got enough experience and he's been around the traps long enough. Played at the highest level. He could be a big pickup for the Chiefs as well. But they didn't win a game last year. I think they'll win. They should win a game. They're not that bad. They're nowhere near as bad as a team that shouldn't win a game. But I still think it could be a long year. How do you see that? How do you see the Chiefs?
They're gonna, obviously you can't go any worse than what they didn't achieve last year. So I'm pretty sure that the squad will be willing to try and just start with the first week, 1 week at a time, just try and do the best they can to try and win. And I think with a lot of these guys, whether they've been impacted by injury in previous years, with a fit squad, they've got so much talent to burn. You got your Lachlan Boshier, you got Peter Gasso-Okula, Luke Jacobson's got a point to prove. Mitchell Karpik, who had such a huge rep as a young player as well coming up, is now a seasoned. He is probably his 3rd season of Super Rugby as well, so there's going to be a lot asked of him. But then obviously all of those loose forwards around the hitman Sam Cane and the All Blacks captain. So they've got a lot to prove. Kane has got a lot to answer for in trying to guide this team, whether he's fit enough to play at times because of what we understand of his injuries in the past. But there's a lot of guys that can fill his place and do just as good a damage. I guess Angus Ta'avao as well, touching back on the front row, he's got a lot to prove. Having a bit of he was on the sidelines quite a bit last year due to injury. But Sione Mafileo, Sione Mafilio's played over 50 games for the Blues, and he was pretty much a straight swap with Nipo Haulala coming north, and Sione's gone down to the Chiefs. So it'll be interesting to see how he thrives in that environment down there. But we haven't even mentioned Sean Wainui and Sean Stevenson in that mix as well. So those guys, experienced campaigners, and Sean Stevenson, despite being quite young in age, he's been in that Chiefs environment for a fair few years now, and so knows how it all works, whether he starts or comes and shows some impact off the bench. Sean Stevenson's a good finisher as well.
Yep. Good thoughts there. I agree with you. There's no way they're going to be as bad as they were last year. I think they're going to have a hard year, but I think they might move up the table. So I don't think they're going to come last.
Oh, no, I'm thinking they're going to win. I'm not trying to be biased or anything, but just
yeah.
In my humble opinion and professional opinion, I believe they're going to win.
Yeah, special shout out to Lachlan Boshier as well. Probably the most unluckiest player last year not to get picked in the All Blacks. And if he keeps on playing the way he is, it's going to get to the point where it's too hard to
What does he have to do? What else does he have to do?
I don't know the answer. I would have picked him. If I was the All Black selector or All Black coach, I would have picked him. Especially when they had a few injuries and then they pulled in Karifi ahead of Boshier again. I thought, oh man, he must be well down the list.
And it's not a bad thing against Karifi as well. You know, he's done so well to get that call up and be a part of that international and All Black environment. And so the competition is so hot with loose forwards. And you know, Sam Cane is your captain, so they're all fighting for, you know, and trying to be versatile to whether they can play 6 or 8, and we see that with Luke Jacobson slotting at an 8 in this game of 3 halves. So Peter Sawakula is a 6'8" as well.
Yep.
Mitchell Karpak, he can play 7, but is probably versatile enough to play an 8 as well, and 6 and cover all 3. So huge competition, and Lachlan Boshier is just going to try and stay fit and do well for the Chiefs, and hopefully show his perseverance and be persistent enough to get a berth in the All Blacks eventually.
Yep. Good thoughts there, Rog. I agree with that. I think I'm picking the Chiefs to actually come fourth, so don't hold much hope for them, I think. We haven't got anything more on the Chiefs. We'll move further down south towards the Hurricanes in the windy city of Wellington. So, mate, what are your thoughts on the Hurricanes, mate?
I think for me the big talk is the comeback of the bus. You know.
Yes.
I mean, he's back in there. He's part of the promo and everything. You know, they've got big expectations of Julian Savea. Making a big move and trying to, you know, he's talked it up last year that he wants to try and become an All Black again. But obviously he started at ITM level last year and made his way. He was available for the Hurricanes towards the latter stages of Super Aotearoa 2020, but wasn't utilised. So, but you know, there's enough guys in there as well to put in a bit of competition for Julian. But he's not going to lie down and not try and make a mark and pretty much try and see if he can reinvent himself enough. Whether he can do it, I'm not 100% sold on it, but he's got a lot of work and a lot of young, enthusiastic wingers that are out there. Whether he makes a move to the midfield, there could be somewhere where he might be able to become an All Black again. I'm not too sure. I haven't seen the inside centre skills of Julian Savea to try and make any sort of good case for him. But if he can do what Rieko Ioane, but Rieko Ioane was always a centre who was playing out wide, whether he can reinvent himself like we know Tana Umanga did back in the early 2000s, and you know he could sort of he could add to some of those tests that he's had as an All Black winger. Has he? I don't think he's had 50. I think he's just under 50 tests for the All Blacks, Julian Savea. But yeah. So it'll be interesting to see how he does. But all credit to him to be able to get another super contract after a bit of a sort of controversial time overseas in France. Be good to see him. He's back in New Zealand waters. So. Or is he just over the 50? 54?
Yeah, 54.
54.
Just got our fact checker to confirm that. Yeah, good call on Julian Savea. But it's similar to what happens to those types of outside backs in New Zealand, those real explosive outside backs? So we saw Tana Umanga happen to him, Joe Rokithoko, even Jonah Lomu, the late great Jonah Lomu, and Christian Cullen and these type of guys, where there's that short shelf life for those type of powerful, explosive outside backs.
Yes.
So if you can do what Tana Umanga did and make a transition to the midfield, then you can prolong your career. And that's why I think that's what he's trying to do. He sort of realizes the writing's on the wall. He doesn't have that out-and-out explosive power and speed that he had in his younger days. He's 30 now. So he's trying to reinvent himself, and hopefully he can do it. I did see him play in the preseason game. I think it was yesterday. They played the Highlanders, and he looks like at least he's been keeping in shape. So he looked quite slim and quite lean. So he's really coming in trying to give himself the best chance. But
So his last test was about 3-4 years ago. 2017 was his final test. So that's going back a bit, but at the same time, there's no doubt in my mind that it's a challenge for him to be able to try and do that. But he played in number 11, 51 times he played as a number 11. So that was his for a good amount of time, and so. And to see, obviously, Riku Iwane make it his own, he's trying to stake a claim on it again. But the challenge is there for Julian to be able to do that. But whether he doesn't reinvent himself and come closer into the action, but whether he can do that is another question. But it'll be interesting to see and to follow that part of his journey. But I think the difference for me was that Tana caught it early, Rico caught it early, before they were finished on the wing. They could still play on the wing, and they decided to make the call to come inside. And I think that's the difference here, I believe. And Julian, the only difference for Julian is that, he's been out of the All Blacks for 4 years now, close to 4 years. And so whether he can make a comeback. I remember Chris Jack, when he came back from overseas, made a claim to that, obviously the desire is still there to become an All Black again, but it never eventuated for likes of Chris Jack either. So it'll be interesting to see how it all goes.
Yeah, he had a rough time in France, as you sort of alluded to. I know he's getting trolled a lot on social media. His performances weren't that good, but they can be quite brutal over there. So it's good to see him back. That experience factor is really huge. And just on that experience factor, they've lost TJ Perinara, he's been critical for everything that they do. So when they've had their successful periods was when they had TJ at halfback and they had Bodie at 10. You take those two guys out and it's a massive drop. So Jamie Booth is also injured, which means Jonathan Tomatini was the starting halfback during those trial games. And they've got Jackson Garden Bishop there. So I think that those decision-making positions, the playmakers, they're really skinny in that side. And I think they're going to slide quite badly, actually. So how do you see the Hurricanes? How do you think they're going to go?
Well, they got some, Jackson Garden Bishop had a pretty good season last year as well.
For who? Well, not for the Hurricanes, I don't think.
I thought he did for the Hurricanes. He showed a bit of good decision making, but
right.
Obviously not enough to warrant a pass mark. But I think he's got some promising signs there. But my big hope here is Salesi Rayasi.
Mm-hmm.
He obviously plays really well for Auckland.
Yep.
But it'll be interesting to see how and it was him and AJ Lamb that were making some massive noise for Auckland last year in the ITM Cup, NPC. So it'll be interesting to see how he kicks on as an outside back or as a winger for. He's quite a big unit.
Yeah,
he's tall. He's quite sleek, but at the same time, once he gets older, he's going to fill out. Will he be like a Julian Savia type winger? But his skill set, he's quite athletic. He doesn't have that kind of a power game, but he's quite elusive in terms of his athleticism. Rolangi Visenia has come back from overseas as well. Former New Zealand Sevens as well as a Blues player.
Mm-hmm.
Local West Auckland boy from Custon Boys and played for Suburbs. But, he's done well. Obviously won the championship with the Magpies last year. So there was a bit of success and to be able to secure a contract with him with the Canes is good on him. But who else is there that we can? Simon Hickey. He's been a bit of a stalwart for Grammar Tech in the Auckland scene.
Yep.
So, you know, I don't know. I think this is his first time that he's had a super contract. I could be wrong. I haven't really looked into the history there with Simon Hickey, but he's always been playing for Auckland. Will go overseas with his brother and then come back and play club as well as ITM for Auckland. But I believe he may have, I'm not too sure. Again, he may have been a part of the Blues, whether he's had a game or two. I stand to be corrected.
Yeah, game or two, or maybe 14.
14. He's had 14 for the Blues. 2014-15. That's
Well, I'm a diehard Blues fan, and they must have not been that good because I don't remember him at all being there. He must have just been
so he's
just another guy, a jag for the Blues.
So he's played quite a bit of rugby in France,
Yeah.
a few seasons there, as well as in Scotland for Edinburgh. But okay, so he was part of the Blues. 14 games he played in those 2 seasons, 2014-15. Stacey, you're a Blues fanatic. So is Cam on our fact check. They don't even remember him. So obviously he's just slipped under the radar, and he slipped under my radar. I didn't even realise he's got an awesome kicking game. He's been able to steer the ship for Grammar Tech in previous seasons to a couple of championships as well for that club. So it'll be interesting to see how he goes, because he's not an early 20s. He's probably closer to 30 now. So, but he's been around the traps. He knows the ins and outs of obviously what he needs to try and prove himself with. So that's an interesting acquisition for the Canes, getting someone that hasn't played super since 2015.
Yep. Yeah, that's my big question about the Hurricanes, just on that 9-10 axis. I think they're really skinny in that area, and I think that's going to hurt them in the long haul. I think Geordie Barrett's going to be crucial for them. He's probably their most creative player, and one of their best players as well. So I see him being involved in a lot of the attack and helping to structure a lot of their points. But I've actually got them coming last in the New Zealand Conference.
Ooh. Even with All Blacks, Julian Savea, Billy Proctor, Ngani no Mape.
Yeah.
Julian Savea, he's named in there as in the midfield. So yeah, that's something that we could be seeing a bit more of in the future.
Yeah, I'll also say congratulations, Artie Savia. He's taken over the captaincy since TJ's left. So Captain Artie, he's a lead by example type of player.
His future All Black, Scott Scrafton, still
still
in there at the locks there.
Still in there.
Yeah.
Another favourite of the
We'll see what happens later on this year, team. We'll see what happens. Kane Lau Pepe from the Manu Samoa.
Yep.
I don't even know if did he have a game last year for the Canes?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Yeah. Be interesting the competition between the hookers. Rigatelli still there, O'Moore and Coles. So it's going to be interesting competition and see how they utilise who and when. But yeah, it's Tyrell Lomax and that and as a prop. It's probably a lot of the younger ones there now, but Tyrell Lomax is probably the more senior. If I could be wrong.
Yep. So yeah, hooker aside, I think that tight five could struggle a little bit. Lomax isn't too bad, but outside of that, I think they've got some workman-like locks and some potential guys in the props. But I'm predicting them to come dead last in the New Zealand Conference.
Fact checker. Can you bring up Luke Campbell, please? Luke Campbell, is he my? Oh no, he's a halfback, isn't he?
Yeah.
Oh no, who's the other? That's it. It's Simon Hickey. Oh, okay. No, not Luke Campbell then. So what's Luke Campbell's history? How has he made it into the Canes?
He doesn't even have a Wikipedia page. That tells you a lot about where he is in the grand scheme of things. He's from Bay of Plenty. So I think TJ, like we talked about this a bit earlier, but TJ, he's such a big loss, and he was a lot of everything they did revolved around his play. So they basically structured their whole attack around what he was doing at 9 and what Bodie was doing at 10. So because of those two massive losses, irreplaceable losses, I see them slipping down to last. Sorry, Hurricanes fans that listen to the podcast, but yeah, last for them.
Okay, so Campbell is he has played for Wellington before, but he's 25 years old and he's come back to first time play for the Canes. So, and that's, I guess, with TJ bowing out, has provided an opportunity for him there. So, all the best to the Canes.
Yep, nice.
Got them down as they'll be third.
Ooh, third. That's not too bad. Although they were third last year, so it's not unreasonable to think that. But yeah, we'll move towards the South Island. The top team up the South Island. I won't say the top team, but I'll say the team more closer to the top. The Highlanders. The Highlanders. We'll look at them. Do a little preview of the Highlanders, mate. So, Rog, what have you made of the Highlanders? And
did you just say that geographically the most northern team of the two South Island franchises?
I did say that. Now I've realised
the Bears are Highlanders.
Sorry, the Crusaders. The Crusaders. We'll do the Crusaders.
Crusaders. Wow, the dynasty that is the Crusaders.
Yeah. Can they even be stopped? Because what are they up to now? Four in a row. And they've got to be odds-on favourite again, I'd say. But, mate, Roger, we'll get your take on this Crusaders team and how you think they're going to go. And just some players that you identify.
Well, just basing it off last year, and you see that experience in there, just in the back line alone. I haven't even looked at the forwards, but Richie Mo'unga, Sevu Reece, Will Jordan, Jack Goodhue, George Bridge, David Havili. The All Blacks. If they weren't All Blacks last year, the former All Blacks as well as the current bunch there. So, there's just a whole lot of experience and good leadership there. And then we go to the forwards. You've got Joe Moody's, Cody Taylor still there. George Bower was an All Black. He's in the All Black squad. I don't think he had a test last year for the All Blacks, but he was included in that in the championship. What was the championship? What was it called? Because South Africa wasn't involved in it, was it? It was similar to a Tri Nations again. Sam Whitelock again there. So Cullen Grace, he was an All Black for the first time last year. Tom Christie is there to try and prove a point. He's probably on the verge of becoming an All Black as well. But, there's... was it Tom Sanders? Was it Tom Sanders that was the All Black last year as well?
He was the guy... He played awesome in that North-South game, Tom Sanders.
And missed out, eh?
Yeah. But he was sort of like... With all the loose forwards going around, I was sort of shocked that he was in the running. And then he was probably one of the best players to the point where... He's really put his name up in the reckoning. So, yeah, Tom Sanders is the guy I'll keep an eye for. But I think he's got a injury which has got to keep him out the start of Super Rugby. He should be back for the Trans-Tasman section of Super Rugby, I believe. But I think he'll be missing a chunk of the Aotearoa section.
Yes. It's just a dogfight to try and get into the starting sheet, let alone the squad for the Crusaders. But... they seem to have a well-oiled machine. Braden Eno, didn't even mention him either. So if he comes right from his injury woes of last year, then... But Will Jordan is going to be looking forward to trying to make a real claim on either fullback or one of those wing spots. So massive competition right across. Just with these four franchises that we've touched on yet. We haven't even gone to the Highlanders yet. But George Bridge, again, another winger. David Havili. If he can remain injury-free, he had a stellar start to the Super campaign last year. So, but then he was even proving his worth in the ITM in the latter stages of last year too. So Leicester firing Nuku, who's got a big point to prove. So because it's going to either be All Blacks or Tonga.
Yep.
I kaletahi for these firing Nuku brothers. So. Who knows where it's going to end up? And a lot of these island boys, a couple more years for the next World Cup, and some of them will probably be making that decision whether they go across, just like Michael Alaalatoa did for the last World Cup.
Yep.
And so they come to that crossroads. But Scott Barrett as captain. Interesting. What does everyone think there? Sam Whitelock's not going to be there for every game. They're going to try and probably wrap him up in a bit of cotton wool and
possibly
ease his way into 2023. But Mitchell Dunshire, was he the other All Black? There was a lock that was a first-time All Black last year.
Quinton Strange.
He was
the guy
that's the one.
who sort of came from, I guess, sort of nowhere.
Yeah, and that's it.
Yeah.
But he played the All Blacks? Quinton Strange.
He got selected. I don't know if he got a game.
There was
I'm not sure if he got picked.
Cullen Grace. Cullen Grace got a test or two.
Yeah, I think Cullen Grace got a game. I'm not sure if he got an actual test. Quinton Strange. Oh, no, he didn't.
Five appearances. Oh, under 20s.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. There was another one that someone got his one test.
Yeah, I think that was Cullen Grace. He got one test.
Cullen Grace.
But yeah, just on the Crusaders, I think you've touched on a lot of the main guys there, Rog. They've got a few injuries early on, so I think that could potentially hold them from winning it again. So you talked about Tom Sanders, he's injured. Braden Eno, you mentioned, who's got an injury. George Bridge is injured. Andrew Makaleo's injured. I think Manasa Mataele's injured as well. So they're going to be missing some pretty good firepower, and if they cop a few more injuries during the season, I think that could really test their depth. So for that reason, I think that they're going to come second. Just the injuries are going to stop them. Going to be
second to the Blues.
Factor.
Second to the Blues.
So I think that they'll come second.
Have they got a final factored in for this Super Aotearoa after the botch up that they did last year?
Final at Eden Park.
They're going to have a final. Waikato. Yeah, well, that's an interesting one there because with all, like you say, that due to the injuries that they're going to have a bit of a lackluster campaign. But I believe that, that as the juggernaut is that we know of the Crusaders in the past, whoever comes in is just going to fill that void and just going to bring their own flavour and do the damage themselves. We know what Andrew Makaleo presents now, and then whoever, if he's injured, Cody Taylor's there, but then they'll always have someone else who's rearing to go and ready. So I'll never discard the chances for the Crusaders, but they've got it covered right across the board. But then even players that we don't even know that could be pulled from club rugby will probably be rearing at the bit to go as well. So
yeah, that's a good point. If we look at what we talked about last year, so guys like Quinton Strange, Cullen Grace, Tom Christie, Tom Sanders, these weren't guys that we knew a lot about last year, and now look at them. They're bloody come into the team, and the Crusaders, their culture and the way they bring guys on, people can come from nowhere and be bloody superstars. So that's a good point. Well, it'll be interesting to see what happens. So how do you think the Crusaders are going to go? Do you see them?
I reckon second as well, second to the Chiefs.
Okay. Yeah. No, they've got a lot. They've got a lot of firepower, obviously. But yeah, just for me, too much injuries will stop them from winning. Super Rugby Aotearoa. I'll say they won't win Super Rugby Aotearoa. When the guys come back for the Trans-Tasman section, I think that they could.
That ain't gonna happen. That Trans-Tasman is not gonna happen.
You reckon?
I don't think it's gonna happen.
Oh, yeah, that'll be interesting.
Because they'll have to, some of those teams will have to base, the Melbourne Rebel will have to go out of, because Melbourne just had too many issues with COVID.
Yep.
They'll have to base themselves out of Melbourne, if that's to happen, and then probably somewhere in either Brisbane or Sydney, where it's less likely to for COVID to less likely to take a hold and affect anything that could eventuate from there. So, I mean, they've got their own competition they have to worry about that could be hampered by outbreaks of COVID in different states. But, yeah, too much is happening there. I don't think they're isolating as well as they could. And that's, again, it's a different jurisdiction from state to state. and that'll come to play and affect any sort of eventuation of Trans-Tasman competition after Aotearoa.
Yep. We mentioned Andrew Makaleo, a big loss for them. So Cody Taylor, I think he's going to be crucial for them. He's going to have a big year, and I'm predicting big things from him from the Crusaders. So he's the guy who I think is going to be the standout player for the Crusaders. He's going to have to be, just because Andrew Makaleo, he's got a season-ending injury, so he's going to have to step up. And they don't have the rest protocols for the All Blacks that they've had historically, or they haven't mentioned anything. So if they don't have those rest protocols, he could be good to play big minutes. So
that'll be in 2023 Super season. That's when they'll have those rest.
Yeah, but the Crusaders they're the Crusaders, so the juggernaut carries on, and it would surprise absolutely no one who's listening to this if they were to take it out again.
Yeah,
but our two experts here, I think, if you're listening to it, you won't see that I'm doing some air quotes for experts, but we're picking the Crusaders.
And just for a spanner in the works is a third halfback, Bryn Hall, for the ABs.
Ooh, nice. Yeah, we haven't had any real big calls.
I think he's due. I think he's due. He's due his time, whether it be for just 2021, but I think he's due a doozy.
Yeah, well, TJ's gone. There's an opening there. We know Aaron Smith is automatic, but after that, there's some openings now. So, yeah, Bryn Hall, good shout.
I think he was unlucky to miss out on being even in the squad last year. After he showed some good fine form. So, but obviously Mitchell Drummond's going to be pushing hard. So it'll be interesting to see how Bryn Hall reacts after. I think he felt that he was hard done by missing out on a bit of a call up, but. It's all about how they react and how they take that disappointment and turn it into some form of positive this year.
Nice. Williams, the mighty Williams. He was a guy who got earmarked. He's like 140 kg beast, but he's got some athleticism as well. He's quite quick around the field. Similar to Taniela Tupou, that type of style of prop. So it's still early days. He's a young man, but just a name for people to listen out for as well.
Yeah, but I think if George Bauer wants to get any more experience with the ABs, then I think this will be a year where he's going to try and prove a point. It'll be interesting to see where Michael Alalatoa, because we've seen in the past where a lot of internationals who not playing for the All Blacks but play like for Samoa, like in the case of Michael Alalatoa, he's been able to hold his own in the last 2 years despite being unavailable for the All Blacks, but obviously an obvious selection for the Manu. It'll be interesting to see how he develops or how he pushes on this year, because you've got the likes of George Bauer and all these other players that are eligible for the All Blacks, and whether Michael's able to still hold his own and keep a spot. We've seen it done in the past with Brian Lima, as good as all the wingers were around in the time that Brian was playing in New Zealand, he was still able to get time with the Blues, with the Highlanders as well. So, yeah, if Michael can push on, it'll be a huge advantage for the Manu, I believe, and it'll be good for the Manu. But again, he's got a good, healthy competition there in the wings there waiting. Isi Tungafasi as well, brother of Ofa. So he's been there a couple of seasons already. Yeah,
I'm curious why Michael, not in a bad way, but why he went for the Manu. Because I think he could have potentially been an All Black if he had waited. And if you're in the Crusaders system and you're a starter for the Crusaders, you get fast tracked to the All Blacks, and he is. He's a starting prop for the Crusaders.
And that bodes well for him. That shows how valuable he is to the Crusaders outfit. Is that he's able to hold his own there despite being unavailable or not eligible for the All Blacks. He's still a mainstay in this Crusaders outfit. And that's been 2 years now, because the last World Cup, 2019, and he's still being selected in this Crusaders Super Squad. So that says a lot about the player and the value that Michael adds to the Crusader outfit. But I sort of, there's been other players that have been in similar instances.
Right.
We can go back to Kāna Fotuali'i, who comes to that crossroads. Does he still push on and persist with the All Black dream, or do you then? We don't know what the circumstances are or what leads them to make those decisions in the end. But obviously, it's been a good a good thing for the Manu Samoa that we were able to acquire the services of Michael. Obviously, his brother plays for Australia.
Yep.
But I think it was always going to be interesting to see where Michael was going to go, and obviously he's chosen Samoa to represent. And their father was a former Manu player as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, interesting. But I believe Michael could have been an All Black too. He was good enough. He is good enough, but the current rules won't allow that.
No, I will also say on the pod that we are of Samoan descent, so we're grateful, Michael, that
I'm French.
we can get a player of this caliber to turn out for the Manu is amazing. Normally the All Blacks get who they want, and I'm wondering if they would have really wanted him, because I think that, like you said, skills-wise and what he brings on the pitch, he's good enough. So, yeah.
I thought he was close, but then obviously he missed out, and then Manu was right there to snap up. But and that's the choice that they had to make. Whether one cycle of the World Cup will pass them by without playing any international rugby, and they still try and play and follow on the following year to try and prove themselves as an All Black or to become an All Black, or do they just take up the opportunity to play international rugby, and it's not to say it's taking the lesser option, but I believe it's a massive bonus for Samoa to have players that are playing in the Super Rugby or in the professional leagues here or abroad in the Northern Hemisphere. And Kane Leopepe is another example, having played for Samoa in the 2019 World Cup and then being part of the Kane setup last year and again this year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good thoughts there, Rog. What can you say about the Crusaders? They're a great team, and it's a testament to their culture. I can't stand them as a team, but you have to respect what they can do, because they've been at the forefront, not just, even though they've won 4 in a row, but you could rewind 20 odd years and they've been the best team to beat. So you have to give them credit to that. But if we don't have anything else on the Crusaders there, Rog, we'll move down to the bottom of the South Highland, and I'll get it right this time, to the Highlanders. So, mate, Rog, what are you making of the Highlanders this year, and how do you see them going?
Yeah, 2021 outfit. Obviously, you got Aaron Smith, who's awesome. Stalwart down those ways. He'll be rearing at the bit. I love the thing about Aaron Smith is it's his enthusiasm, his energy. And doesn't matter how long he's been playing, he's almost like it's his first season. The energy that he brings, that's a bit of a bright spark for the Highlanders. They've lost a lot of experience in the last few years. Be interesting to see how James Lynches has recovered from his season-ending injury last year.
Yeah.
I can see he's still he's again in the squad this year, because he was actually the captain too last year. So.
Yep.
Marino Mikaele Tū will be interesting to see how he pushes on after last year, and trying to push for higher honours there. Liam Squire, a welcome return for him, and he'll be trying to prove his worth, after having being sidelined with some issues, some personal issues that he was dealing with, and he could have easily been an inclusion in that All Black squad last year had he made himself available. He made himself unavailable, but it'd be interesting to see. At number 6, do we have an out-and-out 6 yet for the All Blacks?
Yes, we do.
Who's that?
Akira.
Yeah, but it's just welcome competition. Welcome competition for Akira, and that just means that Akira's just going to have to continue on from what he's already achieved last year. And he made some, huge leaps and bounds, Akira, in his game. Not only just the talent that we know him to be, but I think it was the maturity that he showed on the field in times that we knew that he could blow a fuse. So that was encouraging. So when you got a competition of Liam Squire's caliber coming back in, that's going to be putting Akira on notice that he could easily, fall out of contention. But then you got a lot of other players. Fifita's still in the Canes trying to make his way back in, but Liam Squire is a huge threat and for any of the Sixers trying to put their hands up. Te Ariki, Ben Nicholas has always been an interesting one for me. I think he's got a good shot of, pushing for higher honours. If it wasn't for COVID, there was always going to be that other New Zealand 15 team that they were trying to
yes,
push for. And that's where guys like Te Ariki, Ben Nicholas, Scott Scramptons, they could have had inclusion in those kinds of teams because that's the next step before, a full international. So it'd be interesting to see where Te Ariki, Ben Nicholas falls in to how they want to utilise them this year. And Paripari Parkinson as well is another one that I believe has got the makings of pushing on. But Manaki Selby Rickett, he got a last 20 minutes in the North-South game. And so he's another one that's wanting to prove a point as well. But Shannon Frizzell, we know what he can do. We know what he's done. I don't know, maybe again on-field sort of incidences that have shown that he's got some parts of his game that he needs to improve on. But, who doesn't? So hopefully Shannon Frizzell can, again, bring more competition for Liam Squire as well as and that just strengthens the All Black sort of potential loose trio as well. So, it'd be interesting to see how it all happens. But and then going into Nihimuna Skara, that's an interesting inclusion there in the backs. Nihimuna Skara still trucking along there. Have we seen the best of Nihimuna Skara? Is he past it now? The injuries that he's had. He's had some really awesome outings for the All Blacks, I believe.
yes,
But the injuries have just really had major impact on Nihi in his comeback, and then that's affected his mental well-being as well. So hopefully he's put those behind him and he's able to really put his best foot forward and have a good shot at it. But when Nihi was at the peak of his powers, when he was a fresh All Black, because I don't know how many All Black tests has he even gone over 10?
yeah. Oh, well,
15?
because he was the starting wing on the World Cup, so I think he got a lot of games.
But the thing is, what I remember, it was just cut short dramatically simply because of those devastating injuries that he suffered.
Mm-hmm.
And so I believe he could have, had if it wasn't for those injuries. So 13 tests. So if we look at the way that he's come in and what he was doing at super level, as well as in those initial games for the All Blacks, I believe a fit Milner Skara could have played well above 20, 30 tests. But some of those crucial injuries that he got when he was on his try scoring rampage, scoring a try, he got himself injured and he was out for the season pretty much. So, and then coming back and then injuring himself a year later, a similar season-ending injury as well. So he's had a tough time, but he's done well to again secure another super contract, and hopefully it goes well for him. But with the Highlanders, so he's not with the Canes. He's in a new environment. So it'd be interesting to see what he adds or what he can bring with all of his experience as well. But Michael Collins, former Blues fullback.
Yep.
But really playing well for them in the centres, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So it'd be a good watch, and then how they utilise Josh Ioane as well. Whether they continue him as first five, but then they've got the number 12 option with Josh Ioane, and then that brings an opportunity for the likes of Mitchell Hunt to play first five, or Michael Collins to slot in there. But he's quite a versatile player, having seen him play for the Blues as a fullback, and also of late being utilised as a centre for the Highlanders last year, which I believe was probably his most where he played a lot of his best rugby last year as a centre.
Just on that Josh Ioane, where do you see him actually fitting into this team? Because you're right, he's played first five, second five, he's played, they've chucked him in at fullback at times. He seems to be a bit of a utility, but he was the All Black first five a couple of years ago, and he was probably on standby for the World Cup if there was an injury. So So do you think they should be chucking him back at 10? And because they have had some good performances from Mitch Hunt, if I'm being honest as well. So I think they're just trying to find a way of fitting them both in the team. But I just think Ioane should be starting 10.
I feel that Josh One is a 10 that can play 12, or 10 that can play fullback. So yeah, versatile, and that, I guess, that opens up the whole question of taking the utility or specialist players, and that sort of bodes them well for higher honours and being a player that they can utilise in different positions. So I think that can only be good for him, but you want to sort of see him settled in as a first choice, first five, in order to be able to push his case as a first five option for the All Blacks. But then when you're always going to have a guy like Damian McKenzie or a Richie Mo'unga, then his game time opportunities at first five will be limited. But we've seen how first fives can drop in previous World Cups. So, but yeah, I reckon he'll be utilised in any of those positions well, but first five first.
Yep. You talked on those loose forwards, so that 6-8 combination is going to be quite interesting, because they've got Frizzell there, Kazuki Himeno, he's the
Japanese
international.
Yeah.
So he's a decent loose forward. Marino, who had a good year last year, Ben Nicholas, who you've also talked about, and they've got Liam Squire back. So 5 quite quality players who can all fit into those 6 or 8 roles. So the 5 obviously is not going to go into 2, so someone's not going to be getting the game time. It'll be interesting to see who the Highlanders see as their starting 6 and 8.
Yeah, and I think it's just going to come back to that question of who is versatile enough to be able to double up, whether it be a 6 or be an 8 or the other way around. And Liam Squire is a big enough man to be able to operate as a 6 and possibly better at 8 now. So to bring in the more enthusiastic, the more younger Lucy to be able to fill in at 6, and then Liam Squire will always be backing up as a 6 or 8 as well. But then interesting to see if James Lynch's is good to go, then there's your 7 right there. But Shannon Frizzell's proved himself 6 lock, but I'm not too sure if Frizzell can cover at 8 at this stage in his career. But Kazuki Himeno, it's a massive acquisition and an interesting one.
He's good
because he's a bit of a cult. He has a cult following in Japan, and he had a really good World Cup campaign for the Japanese team. So, yeah, for him to be able to... I think the Highlanders have always had a bit of a good relationship with the Japanese players. Obviously with... who was the halfback that they had for years and years?
Another one, I can't remember his name, but he was there. He had a good 5
year run. And for Tanaka. So for Tanaka, obviously... And so the Highlanders are always going to... They've brought in... other internationals from England as well. What's his name? The loose forward for the English. Haskell's played down there as well. We've had To'o Vaenga down there in the past. Brian Lee as well. So, yeah. So the Highlanders have always had they've always been sort of, I believe, near the bottom, but they've had some, like I said last year, they've had some better finishes than the Blues. They've had more top 8 finishes than the Blues have in the last 13 years.
Oh, yeah, thanks for that. There's a lot of good players there. So they had some struggles in the outside backs. So Nehe Milner-Skudder is a good pickup for them. They've picked up Alaimalo from the Chiefs, who's very good.
Yes.
So they've got some good young outside backs. But I will say Connor Garden-Bishop, he has been really good in the trials that they've had. So he had another long-term injury, so he didn't get to play last year, but he looks really, really promising. And you talked about Bryn Hall being a potential bowler for the All Blacks, but Whakatawa, the Tongan guy from the Hawke's Bay, I think he won the... what was that award that they give? The Dwayne Monkley Award. I think he was the Dwayne Monkley winner. Yeah. So, mate, he looks outstanding. He's going to be stuck behind Aaron Smith, who's probably one of the best in the world at the moment, which is fair enough. But, he could, if he can get some games, he could be in that running for the All Blacks as a third halfback spot as well.
Oh, that's
just another person to chuck in the mix there. So, He's still a young man as well. Still very young. Yeah, it's a different.
Yeah, he had a really stellar campaign under former Waitemata man, head coach of the Magpies, Mark Ozic.
Yep.
So, and having come through the Hastings boys high school setup as well. So, massive potential for Whakatawa. He played for Tonga at the 2015 Pacific Games in touch rugby.
Wow.
So, yeah, superstar in the making. It'd be interesting because there was a lot of reps around him potentially being an All Black. You know, there was the way that he was playing last year, especially in that final, that sort of earned him all those accolades towards the end of the season. So, yeah, all power to him and all the best for him. It'll be interesting to see how he trucks on this year. But how old is he?
He was 20 last year when he won the bloody
So he's just
the Dwayne Monkley
21.
medal. So he's
just turned 21.
he's served well, learning from Aaron Smith, and that's really helped his game come along. But he should be, I don't know if he should be looking to move on, but he should be trying to get some more game time at this next level, because I think that's going to be a critical part of the next phase of his development now. So we talked about the Hurricanes losing TJ. They should have maybe tried to make a play for Whakatawa, because he's good enough. I think he's one of the top 5 halfbacks in the country that he should be starting somewhere.
And he's in that Hurricanes area as well.
Yeah.
Being in Hawke's Bay. Or is it? No, that's part of Waikato now, isn't it? Or is it still Canes? No, Taranaki. Taranaki is part of the
Hawke's Bay, Taranaki,
Canes.
Waikato.
Taranaki?
Yeah. Waikato's got a pair of
Nice.
counties.
All right, so for me, the Highlanders, I think they're going to finish third. I will say Selby Rickett as well. You talked about how he came on that last 20 minutes for the North-South. He looked really good in that game. And Locke is still a position where they need to test some guys. So they picked Quinton Strange out of nowhere. Tupova got picked out of nowhere. To his credit, he actually played quite well when he got his chances. But I still think that they're not sure who their next best locks are. So I think Selby Rickett could be a guy who could bolt as well. So he's a player to keep an eye out for.
Yeah, Selby Rickett. I think his dad was an All Black as well.
Yeah, I think you mentioned that on one of our previous episodes as well.
I really enjoyed watching him towards the back end of the last season. So I think, if he's going to stand up and just push on from those kinds of performances, he'll be someone that they'll be closely monitoring moving forward towards the 23 World Cup.
Yep, nice. Right, good thoughts there, Roger, on the Highlanders. Now we've done all our previews for our 5 New Zealand teams. I wanted to look at some of these new rule changes, just to get your thoughts on some of those. So
I'm still dealing with the old rules.
So 2 new rules that have come up. They've got a goal line dropout now.
Oh,
so
yes.
If you force it in goal, it would be a 22 dropout. Now it's a goal line dropout.
Just like rugby league.
And they've got the Captain's Challenge, which is also from rugby league as well. So
how many Captain's Challenges do you have?
I think you just get one, like rugby league.
Just one.
Yeah.
Just one.
So what are your thoughts on these new rules? That was Super Rugby Aotearoa.
So with the dropout, it's an interesting one. So what prior was, if you place the ball down in the in-goals area, it was a 22.
Yeah, 22
kick.
22 dropout, yeah.
So
and now it's a goal line.
I have no idea as to what benefit that has. I guess it disadvantages the team that have grounded the ball and had to drop out because they've lost 22 metres immediately.
Essentially, yeah.
And so it just means that, it's either, I guess you wouldn't be risking like you would on the 22 line when you do those dropouts. Sometimes the attacking team with the ball is dropping out so that they can try and retrieve the ball, so they'll be dropping out closer to that 22 line. Whereas it's too big a risk now to try and do it from the try line. And so it'll just be hacking it as far as you can, really, just to put it back. But then the defending team will be set up for it, and so they'll be ready to come back. So coming from the try line to try and defend a kick that they've just given back to the team and the opposition. So I guess it makes it exciting as well.
Yeah.
But it's an interesting one. Honestly, I'm a front rower. I don't know. I'm not too sure. I'll just follow the ball and try and get there.
Now, I remember when we did our preview last year, and Joey, he was on there. He made a comment that he thought that rugby was taking too much from league and becoming similar to league, and now we're taking two more of their innovations and putting it on. So I do wonder, are the games getting sort of too similar now, too close together?
What are the other ones that we took from league that Joey mentioned?
They did in Australia. They've got that 50-22. So if you kick it from in your own half and it goes out on the 22,
that's right.
You get the line
like
out, which
similar
is
to
like
a
40-20.
Yeah.
And they had some other. I think they had the captain's challenge for a while.
So long as scrums don't become like rugby league, then I'm still happy,
Yeah.
But it's an interesting one. I mean, obviously there's going to be benefits and advantages to it, disadvantages. But that's one that I can see straight off is that obviously the options that they do take from a dropout from the try line. You don't want to try and retrieve your ball and have a mishap, and then they're real close and they'll just capitalise on a mistake and score a try because it's closer. Whereas if they try to do that on a 22, so what would change there? That they'll just try and kick it as long as possible, and then try and bring the line up to try and defend.
Yeah. One thing I'll say, because I watched some of the trials, just in the build-up, and the attack looks a little bit more like league. So I've seen a couple of grubber kicks towards the end goal, that sort of stuff, which we wouldn't have normally seen before. So, I think that people are doing more attacking kicks. If that's good for the game or not, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But, just because they know that if they it's going to be a goal line dropout.
Yeah,
and
they wouldn't
do
those risks. That's too much of a risk on the try line.
So I think we're seeing more different types of...
Especially when they're passing it, to see who's going to kick it or do a little tap over the 22-metre line. And normally sometimes they're just passing it in that 22 area. But you wouldn't be even doing that. Because then how far away do the opposition stand from the goal line dropout?
Well, I'm not sure.
I can't even remember how far they stand with the league one because you're trying to drop kick it as far as possible in league. I can't recall really off the top of my head them having someone there trying to jump up in the air with arms outstretched just like they do on the 22 dropout.
Yeah.
You have your players, your hookers trying to deter or distract the person trying to drop the ball out. So I'm just questioning how close are the defenders going to be from this drop kick from the try line, or are they actually going to be 10 metres from them?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I suppose that's my biggest gripe is more, well, not gripe, I don't know if that's the right word, but more that the games are becoming quite similar.
Yeah.
So I did like that what they were essentially, even though the skill sets can be quite similar, they are still essentially very different games and adopting a lot of their style. And I do think that rugby takes a lot more from league than the other way around, which we talked about last year as well. So some of these innovations are sort of more just copying their style. But I think it does add another dynamic to the attack at least. So it'll be interesting to see how it unfolds throughout the season anyway. All right, good thoughts there, Rog. I wanted to get a couple of thoughts. I will say we've got a TAB account, so we're up to $117. We started with $50, so we're just going to do a couple of predictions here.
Just before you go on there, Stace, just there, Captain's Challenge.
Yeah.
Oh, what were your thoughts on the Captain's Challenge? Because you got one go at it for the whole game. If you utilise it early on and then you got something contentious that happens later on. But I guess you've only got one challenge. So interesting that they brought that in because I thought the captains are always challenging referees anyway throughout a game. So is it just, it's almost putting the ball in, in the advantage of the player to be able to stop a captain. But I mean, they're already challenging referees' calls and
Yeah.
adjudications of the game anyway, and it's whether, and then they end up going upstairs and checking it. But is it more going upstairs from the TMO, or is it in the past or currently until this new regulation? But I'm not too sure. It just seems like, I guess they've got an official, just like in tennis, but tennis has got a couple of them, don't they? But then it'd be interesting to see. Is there a limit in cricket?
Yeah.
There was a limit.
Similar. I think they've got,
Okay.
you would get one go as well. But this is, I think, well, what I do like is it takes a bit of pressure off the referees at least. If the referee gets it wrong, then you can say, hey, look, you should have challenged it if you thought that was the wrong call, as opposed to just, there's a lot of referee blaming and stuff that goes along. But then that takes a bit of pressure off them, and they can say, look, if you disagreed with that decision, you should have challenged it.
Yeah, so there, that example there, ref, we think there was a knock-on at the last ruck before this try. Can you check, please? Isn't that what happens anyway? Isn't that what happens already?
Well, yeah, I think it was unofficial though. So this is now an official rule. So
but then does that take away from them asking the referee later on, like say, hey, come on, ref? But what if the TMO hasn't spotted it, or the TMO, or they see the referee will ask the TMO to look at the footage and advise with the referral? But they're doing that already, aren't they?
Well, that's the thing. Maybe that is probably why they brought it in, because players are
So you
challenging.
can only do it once now. You can only do it once.
Players are challenging everything. Every single try, can you look at that? Can you look at that? Can you look at that? Well, now they can say, no, you can only do that once. So maybe they're trying to help speed up the game. And
So, hold on. But then further down, if they are incorrect, if the captain's referral is correct, then they get to keep, so they can use it so long as it's correct. And
Right.
as soon as it's wrong, then they've lost the right to...
Right.
Wow.
Getting quite technical with these rules now.
It is, because
It's another interesting dynamics, I'll say that.
if they're incorrect, the referrals... Wow, so you just got to always hope that they're always correct, so you always got that up your sleeve. Because
I'm sure that players will say, hey, look, check this, even though they didn't really think they saw anything, just in case. But now you've got to be really sure.
the captain
otherwise
must
you
be
leave the ref.
specific about what they are referring.
Yeah, because you can challenge anything that's happened in the previous 5 minutes. So you could say, there was a knock on 4 minutes ago. But you've got to be specific. You can't just say, was there a knock on? So they had a captain's challenge today. The Chiefs challenged something, but he wasn't specific enough. He said, I think I saw a knock on there. They had a look, and he said, oh, no, maybe it was somewhere else back. And then they said, no, you
Look
weren't
at
specific
that.
enough.
Scroll up. So captain cannot use his referral to stop play following a quick tap penalty or quick throw. So someone might quick tap and it's all legit. They go, no, I've got a referral. Ref, pull it back because I've got to question something that just happened. So I guess you can't do that. Scrum and line out are not part of the referral process. Well, I believe it should be, because there's a lot of niggly instances that happens in that front row, or even in the scrum itself. So why is that not afforded the same right? Whereas any general players, that's bull's wool.
Well, I'm interested to see how it unfolds. At least these new rules, they do add some intrigue. At least, so it'll be good to see if someone gets it horribly wrong and they waste their review. Then an absolute shocking call happens afterwards, and you can't review it.
Well, if a line-out's not going to be part of the scrutiny, then the referee might deem it carry on, the ball straight, and go, hold on, ref, can we recheck that? That was not a straight throw. What are you looking at? So how come it's not afforded the same?
Well, because that's grey as well.
But that's the whole point of a referral, a captain's right to make a referral within 10 seconds of a try being scored.
Yeah, but like a knock-on is black and white. A line-out straightness is sort of...
A line-out that is not straight, or is straight, a line-out that's not straight, a crooked line-out, that is not grey. That, if you re-look at it, the referee might be standing on the wrong angle, and he's deemed as... So why can't they replay that? No, this has got to go...
I put that in grey area because...
This open up a can of worms,
Crooked ones...
And then you penalise the wrong prop. And then like the captain will say, no, hold on, it wasn't my prop's fault. It was the opposition prop. Can we go upstairs, please, referee? But it's not being afforded the same right.
And I think also because it's...
Don't just fob me off like this, Stacey. You just moved on to the next point. So you're not hearing my...
No, I hear what you're saying. I think that they should start off
You're
small.
not
at
hearing
least.
my fatu.
No, it's going to be interesting. I'll say that it's going to add a good dynamic.
Yes.
So we'll see how it goes. I know, like some of the innovations, sometimes they just fall by the wayside. So this could be a 1 year and done if it doesn't. If some of the things you brought up.
Have
don't go.
Australia done this, or is it just New
Australia
Zealand?
have done this last year, I believe, and they
They did it in their NPC, didn't they?
Yeah, I think they're going to carry on with that as well. So,
Okay.
yep, nice thoughts there. So, yep, just for the listeners, keep an eye out for those new rules as well. So, and let us know your thoughts if you can. Yeah, that'll be good. But yeah, Rog, we'll move on to our next section. We're going to do some predictions. So I mentioned earlier we've got $117 in our TOB account. So we start off with $50. So a lot of our predictions have come through quite well, actually. So we've made us, I'm not a mathematician, so I can't say, but we've made profit, I'll say that, up to $117. So I'll get you to predict, mate, who you think's going to win Super Rugby Aotearoa.
The Chiefs.
The Chiefs. So basically, we're going to flush $10 down the toilet. We're going to put a $10 bet on the
Chiefs. They're gonna
give me a
be
reason. Give me a reason why the Chiefs are going to
because
take it out.
they got a lot to prove as to what they didn't achieve last year. So having had a torrid run of 8 defeats last year, I think they're gonna right the wrong and take out this title of Super Aotearoa, and we will look after it a lot better than anyone else has done in the past. Crusaders. Carry on.
Yeah. My prediction is I'm going to pick the Blues. I think they came second.
What's new?
Close.
I knew
They
that was
came
coming.
equal. They came actually equal on points, I believe, with the Crusaders.
Whoa, but you didn't win. You
I
had
lost
with
on 4 against.
all the talk with you had Bowden Barrett. Yeah, you got all excited about Daniel Carter coming in, most expensive water boy. So there's all the talk about the past 3 championships that the Blues had won, 96, 97 and 2003, were with world-class first fives. Did you not have a world-class first five last year?
And he did, and he pulled us up to first equal.
But you didn't win. But every championship that the Blues have won were with world-class first five. Since 2003, you haven't had a world-class first five. You've had all of the, players, Tasisa Lavea come through. You've had Stephen Brett come through, but then you got all excited about, and that's not saying anything bad about those players I've just mentioned, but you had a world-class player, and this is coming from the fans, the Blues fans, and the people who have talked and they've spoken, and they deemed that Bowden Barrett, just as well as his records speak for himself, world player of the year, he was a world-class player. So I agree he's a world-class player, but the championship never came. Super Aotearoa never came. They didn't have the doorstopper. What happened?
Well, yeah, I think first equal is still a good result. When you consider the stats...
First equal, hold on. Did they share the title? Did they share the title? Am I missing something here? When we look back at who won Super Aotearoa, is it going to be Blues and Crusaders? Is that
in my estimation?
In your estimation, is it on Stacey's? Hold on. The media got it all wrong. New Zealand Rugby got it all wrong. Why is there not the Blues
They got it
/
wrong.
Crusaders? Why?
They got it wrong because they didn't have a final, and it's hard to.
So what was the format? How did the Blues knew the format? The Blues knew how they were going to determine a winner.
We lost the game through COVID.
No. How were they going to determine a winner of the championship?
Yeah, if we fought against was going to be the
yeah. And
but
so where did it end up? Where did it end up? Because they weren't the Highlanders missed out as well. They had a game that was cancelled.
But yeah, they weren't running to be.
But
fair.
what if it made a difference?
Points,
So if the results were different,
I think if they could have won by enough points, they could have won the title. But that's sort of why a final was important, and they've got it right this year. So there is a final this year. But the reason that I'm picking the Blues to win is not because I think the Blues are great, or even though I do think that. I think the Crusaders have got too many injuries that's going to pull them down slightly. And I think the Blues have enough firepower to maximise, to take the most advantage of those injuries. So we talked about George Bridge. We talked about Braden Enor, Tom Sanders, Makalil. These are quality Super Rugby level elite guys, All Black guys, some of them as well. And I just don't know that they've got the depth will be tested, is what I'll say. And for that reason, I think the Blues will win Super Rugby Aotearoa. When it comes to the combined Trans-Tasman, if it goes ahead, like you've mentioned, I think the Crusaders will get their guns back and they'll win that section. But this first section, I think the Blues will win Super Rugby Aotearoa. For that reason, the injuries to the Crusaders, more than the Blues' greatness. I'll take your silence as agreement.
I'm not going to dignify that with a response.
We're gonna.
I don't need to. Because that's Stacey talking. Stacey believes NZRU got it wrong that the Blues and Crusaders share this title. I did not see them pass it back to them after the celebrations had by the Crusaders to the Blues. How can you say that? That's that's wrong.
I'm just being a bit more technical. Bit more technical with it.
But that technicality didn't afford them a championship. They didn't. They're not going to be on that. Their names are not going to be engraved on the doorstop.
Yeah. I think the team. It's not far fetched for the team to came second last year to kick on to become first. So yeah, that's my prediction. Well, we're going to put our $10 on your. We're going with you, Roger. We're going to put $10 on the Chiefs to take you.
You won't be disappointed.
You have come up with. You actually had the biggest bet. Which one has the most money? I'll say that as well. With one of those eat-us picks of yours. But wooden spoon, mate. Who do you think's going to take out the wooden spoon? We're looking at Super Rugby Aotearoa. Who do you think's going to take that out?
I'm going to go with the Blues. I'm not saying that's not. I'm saying
like a repeat of last year.
No. I'm just saying that's pure in heart that I believe the Blues had a stellar season. They were almost there last year, but I think we're gonna come back to reality and then see what the Blues are that we know of the true Blues. They're going to be Blues bottoms.
Okay. I'm gonna
with all due respect to the Blues fans out there. I know you're hating on me. You're saying I'm just saying.
Yeah, I'm going for the Canes, the Hurricanes. So
my opinion is just as warranted as Stacey believing that the Blues and the Crusaders won the title, a shared title last year.
Yeah, I'm going to take the Hurricanes to win the wooden spoon. Unfortunately for the Hurricanes, I just feel like that 9-10X is the decision-making guys. They've just lost too much good players. So they lost Bodie. That was a massive loss for them. Now they've lost TJ. And I feel like, all the great things that they did when they were really awesome was based around them too. And their whole game plan was almost structured around what they were doing. So I don't know if they can recover from losing those key playmakers and those key decision-makers in critical positions. So for that reason, I think the Canes are going to be in for a tough year. Although I think I did pick the Canes to come last year as well.
I had the Highlanders last year, but...
All right, so something new. We're going to look at a standout player for both Super Rugby New Zealand and Australia. So one thing that I saw, which I thought was weird, is that Super Rugby, they don't have an MVP or they don't have a Team of the Year or any of that sort of stuff. So the NRL's got their Dally M Awards and the NBA has an MVP. Basically every top sporting competition in the world has an English Premier League soccer, the NFL, all of them except for Super Rugby. And I thought that was bloody weird. They're trying to make it as an international, legitimate top elite franchise sporting competition, and they haven't even got their own MVP or a Team of the Year or any of that sort of stuff. So I thought we would do our own one, and we'll call it the NRL's got the Dally M medal, and we could call ours the WesWes medal after our network.
Hey.
So we'll do it similar to how the NRL do theirs. So 3 points for the best player, 2 points for the second best player, 1 point for the third best player for each of the games, because we do our reviews every week. And at the end of the season, we'll accumulate all the points, and we should have a WesWes medal winner for the player of the year.
Wow.
And we can also have a WesWes team of the year based on the point system.
Okay.
So with that in mind, give me a prediction for your WesWes medal winner. So because Super Rugby Australia and New Zealand will be running concurrently, and there'll be that dual competition at the end, we'll conclude the Australians in this section for player WesWes for our inaugural winner of the WesWes medal.
So just one player overall from the two competitions.
Yeah. Anyone
that pops in my mind? Lachlan Boshier.
You were going to say someone from the Chiefs.
No.
Come on, mate.
I'm just saying. I'm putting it out there. Lachlan Boshier. He's got a massive point to prove. He's had some disappointments on, and we don't know. We speculate as supporters, as spectators, that he was disappointed with not getting higher honour of even being included in the team. So he's been informed that he's got X to work on, this and that to work on. So hopefully if he's come back, he showed his form in the ITM Cup as well last year, and hopefully he just continues it and he proves that he does deserve a spot in the All Blacks squad this year, So hopefully he's able to, do what he did best last year. And we saw that. Everyone saw that, whether they supported the Chiefs or not. They saw the value that he added, the turnovers, the tackles, the tries that he scored, and his general play. So that's my...
Yeah, I was giving you crap about picking a Chiefs player, but that's actually not a bad shout. I think Boshier, he's really starting to hit his straps. I think he was close to the best player, if not the best player in Super Rugby last year. So it's not that far-fetched to think that he's going to carry it on.
Yeah. Just happens to be a Chief, but that's my pick.
So actually not a bad shout there. The guy I've gone for James O'Connor from the Reds. So the Reds, I think they gave the Waratahs an absolute smashing last night, and I think the Reds will move in to be the best Australian team. I think O'Connor, he plays a critical role of first five, and he's just been named the captain. So a lot is going to rest on his shoulders, and he's their primary playmaker and all the rest of it. So I think the Reds will have a good year, and he will be a big part of the reason why. So O'Connor, it might be stink if the first winner of a WesWes medal is an Australian, but yeah, I'm picking O'Connor to be...
Was he born here? Was he born in New Zealand? Technically, he was born here.
Yeah.
But that's not a bad choice there. Stace, that was my Australian choice as well. So
yeah. And just also for our listeners, so we've got we've already had 2 games, so we'll have to do a 3-2-1 of the 2 games that have been played in Australia, just because we're going to include that in the points. So I haven't watched. Have you watched any? Did you catch any of those 2 games?
Just the red card to the young Waratah.
Maybe we might have to have negative points for some.
The young Waratah centre, they got sent off for a spare tackle where the legs went past horizontal. Unfortunate, but yeah, young player there. But I'm not too sure what the outcome was of the game, what the end result was. But they kicked off last night. Nice.
Yeah, so keep an eye. We'll be putting some stuff on our social media as well for that WesWes medal, so you can keep track of who's got X amount of points to follow through. But our last thing that we're going to predict, Rog, this was a section we had last year which worked really well, which was a rookie to watch, or an All Black bolter, or maybe an Australian bolter. So I remember last year we identified Caleb Clark, Hoskins, Tutu got identified as potential All Black bolters, and they got in. Someone said Boshier as well, who he should have got in.
Yeah.
Karifi got someone picked Karifi as well, who was part of the All Black squad. So I think that this section worked really well last year with our predictions of just some guys to watch out for who could bolt it from New Zealand or Australia. So if you've got someone that you can think of,
not at this stage. I don't have anyone. I mean, top of my head, like I remember Hodgman was a dark horse last year as well, and he ended up becoming an All Black. I'm not too sure of whether he would get to being an All Black at the end of this year, but I've got a lot of interest in watching how Marcel Renata progresses this year. Another Blues prop.
Ooh, could we have 5 All Black props in the Blues?
But yeah, he's obviously played for the New Zealand Māori and Auckland as well for the past few years. So yeah, just interested in his progression and his development to where he is now. He's I think been part of the New Zealand Māori All Blacks for the last 3, maybe more seasons. So he's a bit of a mainstay there. And Auckland and the Blues have obviously invested heavily in him and really, I think he's come to the fore now and becoming in that Blues squad. So yeah, but he's got a lot of competition in Nepal Olala, as we mentioned. Hodgman's out there, but he is a solid loose head prop from what I recall. So whether I'm not too sure whether he plays both sides, but he was a solid loose head prop.
Yeah, nice. Quite like that one actually. A couple of guys. There's a guy. He's not really a bolter per se. An Australian, Fraser McWright, who plays open side flanker for the Reds. Australian people will know who he is. He's come along in leaps and bounds. But I know Michael Hooper, who we've talked about on the podcast before. He could potentially be the guy who plays 150 tests. He's so young and he's still going. But he ended up taking a sabbatical. So he's playing in Japan for the. He's going to miss Super Rugby this year for the Waratahs. And there is an opening now for the 7 jersey with the Wallabies. So I think McWright is probably he's the guy who I think could be the guy who takes that jersey. And we talked about Rayasi as well. He's a guy who looks really good. They probably don't need any more outside backs than the All Blacks. But, when you look at his NPC form, if he carries that on for...
But he's already been part of the Canes, right? He's had a handful of games for the Canes, but just doesn't seem to be getting the opportunities to transfer those feats that he's achieving at the Auckland ITM level into Super Rugby. So whether it's just due to the lack of opportunity for him to be able to transition and show what he has to offer at Super Rugby.
Yeah.
Excited that when he was playing for Auckland, so he's only played for the Canes 6 times.
Yeah.
So he's been there since 2019.
Not a rookie per se, but just a guy who hasn't got a lot of opportunities, who if he gets his opportunities, which he will, he could, if he carries on his forms, he could be a guy who bolts into the All Blacks.
Off the back of last year's performances for Auckland, I believe, he should. It warrants more opportunities for him. But then that depends on the competition that's around him at the Canes, as well as how he pushes on. World Cup's coming up. How old is our young man Rayasi? Did he stick around, push for the All Blacks? But then
24, he's young enough.
Or young. Samoa, Fiji. The World Cup.
Yeah, in terms of out-and-out rookies, like you talked about Bryn Hall, and I think the halfback position is a position after Aaron Smith. There's some openings. So Xavier Rowe for the Chiefs is a guy who I really like.
He'll be putting pressure on Weber.
I don't know how much game time he's going to get, but if he gets enough time, he could be, maybe might be a bit too early from this year, but he's an All Black, a future All Black, I think anyway. So a couple of good options there. And I will say, because I picked the Blues to win Super Rugby, and I have that theory about you have to have an elite first 5. So if the Blues win, and I think they will win, it'll be because Aotearoa Black had a good year, and he will bolt into the All Blacks on the back of winning Super Rugby with the Blues.
And so you're saying he will transition into becoming a world-class first 5 this year?
Yes.
From what you saw last year?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was really encouraged by the Blues from what he displayed last year, and Aotearoa Black coming into his own and being able to guide the Blues team to a lot of those wins before Beauden Barrett even took the field. So that's credit to Aotearoa Black.
Yep. Right, nice thoughts there, boys. I'm really excited about the WesWes medal as well. So I think that's a new initiative, and I can't believe that Super Rugby doesn't have their own awards ceremony where they acknowledge their best players.
Write a letter. Or
I will,
send the fax to Mark Robinson, mate.
You watch NBA, NFL, NRL, English football, every single elite league has it except for Super Rugby, and I think that's I think that's a travesty. So it doesn't matter. We're going to pick up that mantle and we're going to take over it. So watch out for the WesWes medal. And also, mate, we're just about to close up, Roger, but I'll get your thoughts. I'll just chuck this in there at the last minute. South Africa, where do you see that going? Like, obviously this year's gone, but are they going to be back with us, or are they going to go north, go it alone? Do you have any thoughts on that? Do we need them?
I think it'll be interesting with South Africa because obviously they've been one of the more consistent foes with the All Blacks in Australia in recent times since the Tri-Nations in the mid 90s through to now. And it's only just last year where they haven't had that regular competition with South Africa. So since they were reintroduced into international sports. So We don't know how is that going to be a detriment to their game for South Africa and internationals, or is the avenue of playing their teams, because they've got their own NPC, but then they have teams that are playing in the Northern Hemisphere competition already anyway, and so whether they follow that in format and then they have the remainder of their super teams playing in the Northern Hemisphere. Pro 16 is where they're at.
Ew.
So who knows how that will develop, because they're in a bit of a sad state at the moment, because even their captain, Khaleesi's gone. He's gone from the franchise where he's been playing and was captain there, so he's now at a different franchise.
Oh, I wasn't aware of that. Okay.
So yeah, it'll be interesting to see where this takes him. But like I say, we've been so used to the Springboks being a part of the international rugby landscape when our All Blacks have their tests, whether it be mid-year or at the end of the year. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Does it provide an opportunity for international with the Pacific Island team?
Hopefully.
But and that'll strengthen the cause of the Pacific teams as well. But it's always been good because it's been a good gauge for the All Blacks. The All Blacks in Australia, because of that regular game with South Africa, we sort of understand and know their flaws and know their strengths a lot better than the other international teams that they don't have regular game time with. So it'll just be, is it now down to the All Blacks in Australia meeting up with South Africa at World Cups only now? So
Yeah, that's good thoughts there. I'm based on what we're looking at here online, it does look like this chances of them coming back look pretty slim. So they might go in with the European leagues and be part of them. And I'm curious about what that would mean for us. Would we be weaker if we're not playing South African teams and playing them regularly? It's sort of that iron sharpens iron sort of mentality. Where if you're playing the best teams week in, week out, that just makes you better just because you have to be. So I think that.
But then how does that theory then transfer across to Italy? Italy, they've been playing 21 years in the Six Nations.
Yeah, fair point.
They've had 107 games. They've only won 12.
How did you pull that? Yeah. No, we got to fact check that stat because you just made that up on the spot.
107 games
Come
from this weekend. They've won 12. And how do they keep playing in that top tier competition? So, and when other teams who are falling by the wayside never get the opportunity, like the Georges, and then I was trying to distinguish what was the purpose of including Fiji, of including Georgia. So I didn't realize. I thought that was just a new format of Six Nations, but it was not. It was just called Autumn Nations. But the Six Nations has resumed this year on this side of New Year's, and that's still Six Nations. So Fiji and Georgia were never part of the Six Nations, but they were part of the Autumn Nations. So two different competitions. I didn't realize that until listening and watch. I watched the game between Italy and England, and that was the stat that came out. 107 matches, 12 wins in 21 years.
I thought that they would have turned the corner because sometimes it takes a whole generation for it to come through. Because, Italy again being part of that Six Nations, all these young Italian kids will grow up watching it and thinking to themselves, cool, rugby is a legit thing, and I'm not going to play, because they're obviously football mad over there. And then that next generation coming through, similar to what happened with New Zealand Rugby League and the Warriors. So they were hopeless for years. The Kiwis, not hopeless, but they were no match for Australia for quite a long time. They get sporadic wins. And then with the Warriors, then a whole generation later, we start to see the fruits of that with Sean Johnson and all those guys growing up watching the Warriors and the Kiwis and that. So I thought that maybe that might have happened with Italy, but that obviously hasn't happened. But so it'll be sad if South Africa leave. I would think that even though the time zones aren't comfortable for us, games at 3 a.m, 1 o'clock in the morning, whatever, I still think that it would probably be poorer without them. I'll say that.
Well, then where do they, on an international level, then do they get included into the Six Nations.
What time zone wise,
It's better for them.
it is better for them. It is. So, and the Six Nations in terms of the finances, they will leave us in the dust.
Yeah.
And the commercial realities, they do mean something. So I know South African rugby, I'm not going to comment on their financial positions, actually. I assume that they're not that well off. But if you could be part of the Six Nations, that's one of the most lucrative
Absolutely.
tournaments in the
And that's
probably
you
rugby in terms. That's probably the most lucrative tournament in the world.
Yeah.
I saw the stats. I was seeing bringing up stats. They were just sort of making up. But in terms of crowds, I think it's in the top 2 or 3 in the whole world. Like they get sellouts every year. Twickenham's sold out every game, so they're averaging like 40,000 per game, just throughout all of the Six Nations. And I think that's right up there with like the German soccer and the
It's
NFL.
crazy. It's crazy.
By attendance. So yeah.
They got the population, and South Africa got population as well to boot in their own domestic competitions as well. So, and you're always seeing that, Ellis Park and at all the local derby Super Rugby games, they're always chocker, and because they got the population for it as well.
Yeah, and style wise too. Like they don't play how we play in New Zealand and Australia. They play more closely to England.
A forward-orientated game.
Yeah. So maybe that might be a good mix. Oh, we'll see. We're only speculating at the moment, but yeah, good thoughts there, Roger. We've been on the same page a lot throughout this podcast, which is that's something new for 2021, which we haven't had in 2020. But yeah, Roger, we're just about to close up, mate. So we'll get some final thoughts, mate, and some last words before just in closing.
Another Samoan played his debut for Italy on the wing against France the week before, and then he scored a try, his first international try against England.
Who was that?
His surname escapes me. Montana.
Is he from here or?
I'm not too sure. If you see who scored that try for Italy against, it was the week after that, Italy-England, yeah. So he scored the first points of that match. It was a try. But he looked good. He reminded me of Rugby Aotearoa.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's good. We'll keep an eye out for that Italian guy. So what else? Any other?
They just seem awkward, Italy always a bit of an awkward team. Like sometimes just their forwards just don't seem to have that mongrel sometimes.
You got to feel for Parise and these types of...
Yeah, or you look at his record, like he's a centurion for them, and then how many of those games would be losses? Hey, how here it is here, boom.
But he was a elite 8. So if he was a different nationality,
Monty, but Monty Ioane here, but his name came up as Montana, but they call him Monty, but I think his full name was Montana. I said, maybe named after Joe Montana.
Well, that's a good Italian name, so he probably fits in there now.
Yeah. Oh, he's from Australia, Queensland Reds. Moved to France 2013. Stade Francais. I even played for Babrini.
Okay, so he's come through on the residency.
And Marco. Yeah, after 3 years.
Oh, no one plays like Digby. This is his uncle.
Oh, I just thought, it looked like Digby. Reminded me of Digby. I didn't realise, they're actually related. Oh, there you go.
Nice.
Cool. Otherwise, looking forward to the season ahead, as well as the Rocky Soriola Cup.
Yep.
Not too sure what scraps Tana's given me, but we'll see.
Yep, nice there, Rog. We'll keep an eye out on this guy, Montana. It's always good to see, people of Pacific Island descent doing well in other parts of the world as well. So, definitely a guy to watch out for. Yeah, I'm with you, Rog. It's great to see rugby starting up again. It's going to be an interesting season. One thing that positive, which we've talked about this before, that's come out of COVID is that you get these Super Rugby Aotearoa because the derbies, the home derbies.
Yeah.
Even when it was combined, those were the best games. So now you get a derby every week. It's really good. One thing I will say is, like, with Super Rugby Aotearoa, there's only 5 teams, so you're only getting 2 games a week and 2 Australian games. And to me, that's just not enough. So hopefully, fingers crossed we can get that Pacific Island team up and running sooner rather than later, just so we can get more games. And it's obviously good for people of Pacific Island descent like us. And
yeah, I guess that'll be a subject for later on, closer to the 2022 season.
Yep, for sure.
With Moana Pacifica, because that'll change. It'll be interesting to see who's going to be playing in that franchise. And
Chotes, Nico Jones, all those guys that should have got picked up but that didn't.
All those guys at the Blues are gonna. Oh, you want a training squad contract so we can keep you in our system?
Yeah.
But yeah, you'll be a lot of players that were coming from abroad, and playing, and might be included in that Moana Pacifica team, regardless of whether the Pacific Island or eligible for any Pacific Island team or not. But that'll be another subject closer to that season.
Yeah, and we've brought a lot of that, the Moana Pacifica right throughout the podcast through last year. So we're definitely going to keep a close eye on that. Just thanks to the listeners and the watchers for following our podcast. Rog, always a knowledgeable guest as usual.
Flukes.
Sometimes the heart comes through a bit too strong in some of these predictions.
Whoa! Hey, mate, I was just like mathematical.
No, but yeah, it's always a pleasure to have you on, Rog, and thanks for being part of the pod. I've mentioned this before, but follow our social media. Facebook, we're on Facebook and on Twitter, so you can check us out there, and YouTube. We've got a YouTube page and our website, so we're going to do a lot of good things. I mentioned before we're going to do the Manu Samoa breakdown of how great it was in 91 and what went wrong after that. That's for the 30-year anniversary. And we've got a couple of other big things coming up, which I won't divulge too much about because I have to think about it a bit more. But to all our listeners and to everyone, thanks for tuning in for another episode. We'll be back weekly as well, like we were last year. So just keep following and keep listening. Right, cheers. Thanks, Rog.
Kia ora.
Thanks, Gibbs.